Hello everyone, thank you for coming back to my channel. Today, we continue following the heartbreaking yet inspiring journey of Ly Hoai Ca and Hùng. In this episode, a moment unfolds that tightens the hearts of everyone watching. While working in the fields on a misty morning, Hoai Ca suddenly discovers a newborn baby girl abandoned by the roadside. Without a single moment of hesitation, she rushes over, lifts the baby into her arms, shielding the tiny body from the cold mountain wind. The baby's faint breathing, her soft kitten-like cries, everything makes Hoai Ca tremble, yet she forces herself to stay calm. A woman who has struggled her whole life, who is as kind as she is resilient, once again cannot bring herself to turn away from someone else's cruel fate. And from that very moment, the lives of Hoai Ca, Hùng, and their small family begin to shift into a completely new direction. Let's follow today's video to see how everything unfolds, and whether the appearance of this little girl will bring unexpected changes to their family. Don't click away just yet, the story is stepping into a deeply emotional chapter. That morning, Hoai Ca left home before the sky even had time to change color. The air was so cold that her breath faded into thin white mist. The path leading to the ginger fields was completely deserted, with only the early wind slipping through dry branches, making them rustle softly. Mountain fog lay thick like a silver curtain draped over the land. Dew gathered on her sleeves and on her hair, cold enough to make her shoulders shiver slightly with every movement. The scent of damp earth, young ginger, and wild grass blended together, the familiar fragrance of a mountain morning she had known since childhood. She placed her bamboo basket beside her and began pulling out the wild weeds sprouting among the ginger rows. Her movements were slow but steady, just like any other ordinary morning. Until a sound drifted toward her, so faint it could have been swallowed by the wind. Hoai Ca froze. Her fingertips halted on a tuft of grass, her eyes narrowing as she tried to listen again. Then the sound came once more. A cry, so soft that if the wind had been just slightly stronger, she wouldn't have heard it at all. Her throat tightened. She straightened up, scanning the ginger field, a place where children were never seen at this hour. The cold wind swept through, making the grass along the edge of the field tremble. And from that very spot, the weak cry echoed again, as if a tiny soul was desperately calling for someone to save it. Hoai Ca's heart skipped a beat. She set the basket down on the ground and hurried toward the thick patch of grass weighed down by dew. Every step she took was tense, her entire body stretched tight by an unshakable instinct. When she crouched down, her hands trembling slightly as she pushed aside the cold, soaked grass, she went completely still. Right there in the middle of the brush lay a newborn baby girl, so small she could fit in the palm of an adult's hand. She was loosely wrapped in a thin cloth already soaked with dew, offering no warmth at all. Her tiny skin was wrinkled from the cold, her lips had turned purple, and her fragile arms reached upward weakly, as if searching for something to cling to. Her cries were broken, fading in and out, sounding like the last plea of a fading life. Beside her was an old cloth bag, damp from the night, and on top of it lay a small note, its edges softened by the fog. "Please take care of her. She is innocent." Hoai Ca's chest tightened immediately. Her eyes stung, not because of the cold wind, but because the sight before her was too heartbreaking. She knelt on the wet ground and gently lifted the baby into her arms. Her movements were so slow and careful it felt like she wasn't even breathing, afraid that the tiniest pressure might hurt that fragile little body. The baby's skin was ice cold, so cold it made the palms of Hoai Ca's hands tense up. Without thinking twice, she pulled the child close to her chest, holding her tightly to share her own warmth. The wind kept blowing. The fog remained biting cold. The field stayed utterly silent. Hoai lowered her head, bringing her lips close to the baby's tiny ear, whispering with a trembling yet tender voice. It's okay, sweetheart. I'm here, don't cry anymore." In the vast, misty mountain morning, there was only one image, a woman bending low to the earth, cradling a tiny life with fading breath. A moment no words could ever fully capture. Hoai held the baby tightly against her chest as she ran across the dirt path leading home. Her breathing grew rapid, each step stumbling over the patches of white morning mist clinging to the ground. The baby trembled lightly in her arms, making Hoai's heart pound even faster. She pushed open the gate and called Hung's name, her voice breaking with panic. Hung heard her and immediately stepped outside, and the sight before him left him completely frozen. A newborn baby, bluish from the cold, wrapped in Hoai's jacket, while she stood there pale-faced, breathless. "What? A newborn?" Hung's voice cracked from shock. Hoai tried to stay calm, but her lips trembled so badly she could barely form words. She was left in the field. She's freezing. Help her, please." Hung didn't ask a single question. He reached out and took the baby as if he were touching the most fragile thing on earth. His entire body tensed, his eyes sharpening with a fierce determination, as if this was a life-or-death mission. "Let's go. Now." Just 2 words, but enough to show how desperate he was. Hoai closed the door hastily and ran beside him. The two of them practically sprinted toward the main road, heading for the commune's medical station. When they arrived, they laid the baby on a warm bed as the doctor rushed in to examine her. Hung contacted the local authorities while keeping his eyes fixed on the tiny child curled under a thick blanket, his heart sinking heavier with every second. Hoai stood beside him, her hands clasped tightly together from the tension. Then 3 days passed, slowly, painfully, as if even time itself was holding its breath. The authorities posted notices. The commune spread the word. Medical staff kept watch. But still no one came. No message. No phone call. No relative walking through the door. Everything remained cold and cruelly silent. Only the tiny baby, sleeping every night in Hoai's arms. The little girl's hand would grasp Hoai's finger, her breathing growing steadier with each gentle cuddle. And Hoai would look at her with eyes full of sorrow and a tenderness she could no longer walk away from. Those 3 days passed slowly, yet they were filled with moments no one in the family would ever forget. Hoai barely took her eyes off the baby. From early morning until late at night, everything she did revolved around the tiny cradle in the corner of the room. Whenever the baby so much as twitched, Hoai would jump up immediately. Each time she made a bottle, she was so careful it felt like she was performing some sacred ritual. She tested the milk on her wrist, tested again, added a few more drops, shook the bottle gently. The whole process took longer than usual because she was afraid even the smallest mistake might make the baby uncomfortable. When changing the diaper, she laid the baby on a soft cloth, her touch so gentle it felt like she was touching mist. That tiny body, those little legs curled up from the cold. Everything softened Hoai's heart, filling it with tenderness and ache. She smoothed out every corner of the diaper, making sure nothing rubbed or left the baby cold. Her eyes full of the focus of a true mother. The mountain air was colder than usual, so Hoai kept a small charcoal stove glowing and warmed the baby's blanket over it. Each time she pressed the warm cloth to the baby's skin, she moved and breathed so softly, afraid even her own breath might startle the little one. Her voice was as gentle as the morning breeze. "There, it's warm now. Good girl, it's okay." At night, the house fell quiet, broken only by the baby's tiny whimpers when she was hungry. Hoai would pick her up, hold her close, her slow rhythmic rocking flowing like a calming stream. Her voice, thick with exhaustion, still carried endless tenderness with every word of her lullaby. "Hush now, sleep, little one, you're safe." Miha often stood at the doorway watching, hands clutching a towel, feet rooted in place, her heart twisting painfully. Her eyes softened, shimmering with tears. She whispered, half scolding herself, "Look at that poor thing. I don't understand how anyone could abandon such a tiny baby. Poor child, children never asked for this." Then she turned away to wipe her tears, not wanting Hoài Ca to see her weakness. Tony, on the other hand, reacted in the pure, innocent way only a child could. Every day he toddled over to the cradle, gripping the edge and stretching himself upward to peek inside. His big round eyes sparkled with curiosity, and he reached out one tiny finger to gently touch the baby's hand. He babbled, trying his hardest to say it clearly. "M-B-B." That little voice made Hoài Ca laugh. But it was the kind of laugh that trembled, warm and wet. She couldn't help it. Tears slipped out on their own. Not from sadness, but from a love that was growing too fast, too strongly to contain. In that small house, time felt like it had stopped. The baby slept in Hoài Ca's arms, and Hoài Ca looked at her as if she were the most precious thing in her entire life. Just 3 days. But they were enough for this little girl to slip into every corner of their home. Every breath, every routine. It felt like she wasn't a stranger at all, but a part of this place, as if she had belonged here all along. That afternoon, the house was quiet when suddenly the phone rang. The sound cut through the stillness, snapping all 3 of them out of the rhythm they had lived in for the past 3 days. Hung picked up the call. The voice of the commune officer came through clearly. "There is a family from the city who wants to adopt the baby. They're well off, have struggled with infertility for years, and they're very eager to take her in." Hoài Ca froze where she stood. She couldn't move, her heart dropped as if missing a beat. Then instinct drove her forward. She hurried to the cradle and lifted the baby into her arms, holding her so tightly her hands trembled, as though she was trying to cling to the fragile warmth still left in that tiny body. Her chest tightened. She couldn't get a single word out. Seeing her like that, Hung's expression softened. He stepped closer, speaking gently, as if afraid his voice alone might hurt her more. "Hoài Ca, I know you've grown so attached to her, but the doctor said she has a heart condition. That family can give her better treatment." The words were true, but each one felt like a blade sliding into Hoài Ca's chest. She pressed her lips together, trying not to cry, but the slight trembling of her shoulders revealed everything. She wasn't wealthy. Their home wasn't fancy, nor did they have much to give. She knew that. Hung knew it even better. But the pain didn't come from being poor. It came from the thought of letting go of a tiny life who had slipped into her heart in less than 3 days. The house grew dim as the evening settled in, the warm yellow light casting a tired glow across Hoài Ca's face. That night, she sat beside the cradle for a long, long time. So long that even the wind outside seemed to stop, afraid of disturbing her aching heart. She stroked the baby's soft, wispy hair, each strand delicate as morning mist. Her voice cracked, tangled with a heavy sigh. "You've only been here 3 days, so why does it feel like you've been with us for years, little one?" The baby lay quietly, but her tiny hand instinctively curled around Hoài Ca's finger. A small, weak grip. Yet it clutched the entire heart of the woman before her. Hoài Ca leaned forward until her forehead rested against the edge of the cradle. Her breathing trembled. No one spoke. No footsteps echoed. No tears fell aloud. Only a heavy, suffocating silence. And a heart aching so deeply it felt impossible to breathe. The morning of the farewell arrived with a sky thick and gray, as if a heavy blanket had been laid over the mountains. No sunlight, No wind. Just a somber stillness that seemed determined to hold on to the sorrow of a small family preparing to let go of something precious. The wealthy family from the city arrived exactly on time. They were neatly dressed, polite, and gentle in both manner and speech. The moment they stepped inside, they bowed and thanked Hoài Ca repeatedly, thanking her for saving the baby, caring for her, and for giving the little girl days filled with warmth they themselves had never had the chance to offer. Hoài Ca stood beside the cradle, one hand pressed against her chest, as if trying to keep her breath from breaking apart. When the adoptive mother reached out to lift the baby, Hoài Ca forced a smile. But her lips trembled so much the smile couldn't hold its shape. Her whole body shook, not from the cold, but from the hollow ache digging deeper into her heart. Hùng stepped forward and gently placed his strong hand on her shoulder. That soft squeeze was like a pillar, something to hold her up before she collapsed under the weight of losing a piece of herself. Miha stood nearby with a handkerchief, tears streaming uncontrollably. She tried to speak through her sobs. "Go, child. You'll grow healthy and happier. I believe that." Tony clung to Hoài Ca's shirt, refusing to let go. He looked up at her with round, tear-filled eyes, his voice broken in that innocent, heart-wrenching way only toddlers have. "Mama, she really go?" I said. Hoài Ca knelt down and wrapped Tony tightly in her arms. She stroked his back, her voice trembling. "Yes, she's leaving to get treatment. Maybe we'll see her again someday." The moment the words left her mouth, tears slid down onto her son's hair. The family's car started its engine. They bowed once more before closing the door, cradling the baby carefully in their arms. The tiny blanket that shifted with their every movement felt like another cut through Hoài Ca's heart. The car rolled down the red dirt path. Dust rose into the air, blending with the gray morning mist. Hoài Ca stood frozen. She watched the car without blinking. As if by staring long enough, deep enough, the baby might turn back for one last look. Hùng stood beside her, silent, just there, ready to catch her if she fell. The car grew smaller and smaller, fading into the fog, until it became just a tiny dot swallowed by the winding dirt road. Hoài Ca remained where she was. Her hands clenched so tightly her nails dug into her own skin, yet she didn't even notice. That night, the house was so quiet they could hear the wind slipping through the cracks in the door. Hùng lay facing the wall. Hoài Ca lay turned toward the window. Neither spoke for a long time, but the silence itself carried a weight heavy enough to crush a heart. Then, softly, barely audible, Hoài Ca whispered, "I miss her so much." Hùng turned immediately and pulled her into his arms. His embrace was steady, warm, filled with tenderness and understanding. "So do I. But we did the best we could." Hoài Ca pressed her face into his chest, her shoulders trembling as she tried to swallow back a sob. "As long as she's healthy, that's enough for me." Hùng stroked her hair slowly, gently. He said nothing more, because sometimes silence is the only way to share a pain that runs too deep for words. Outside, the mountain wind drifted through the window. Cold, but no longer cutting. Because some pains don't disappear. People simply learn to let them rest in their hearts. Softer, and a little less sharp. That night passed painfully slow. In the small house tucked between the mountains, Hoài Ca and Hùng lay in silence, each holding onto their own empty space inside their hearts. The memory of the baby girl was still there, warm, aching, lingering like the last ray of sunlight at the end of the day. But life never stops just because of one sorrow. Tomorrow, something new will surely be waiting for them. There are stories yet to be told, challenges that haven't revealed themselves, and quiet storms already on their way. If you want to know what happens next, see you in the next episode, premiering tomorrow. And don't forget to leave a comment so I know how you feel.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình đang làm video về câu chuyện của Ly Hoai Ca. Bây giờ thì mình đang đặt tên video. Ôi giời, có con muỗi này. Bữa nay ở chỗ mình mưa nhiều, xong muỗi nhiều lắm mọi người ơi. Chỗ mọi người có mưa. Tạm biệt mọi người.